ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Okay. So we will be starting from verse number 20, chapter 3, Śrimad Bhagavad Gita. कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयाः लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि। कर्मणा by work, eva even, he certainly, samsiddhim imperfection, asthitah situated, Janaka Adayaha, Janaka and other kings, Loka Sangraham, the people in general, Eva Api also, Sampashyan considering, Kartum to act, Arhasi you deserve. Translation. Kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Okay, so as we find that In the last shloka, that is 19, Bhagavan said that people who always perform all the actions with great care and attention, remaining unattached, they can attain perfection, highest perfection, that is Parama, in spiritual realization. So now we see here in this verse, Bhagavan is establishing this particular point by the example of King Janaka, etc. As he say, Janaka Adayaha, Janaka and other kings of the same category, means kings like Ambarisha Maharaja, Prahlada Maharaja, Ikshvaku. So Bhagavan meant to say about these great kings by Janaka Adayah, means Janaka and the kings of the same category, Janaka, etc. Then this particular word, that is Samsiddhim, perfection, they attain perfection. And why they act? They acted all their life for Loka Sangraham, means Loka Sangraham is to employ the general mass of people in their respective duties by setting their own example, or we can say to prevent the general people from going astray. So, and here in this connection, we all know about who is Janaka. Janaka is the father of Sita Devi and the father-in-law of Lord Ramachandra, the king of Mithila, that we know. So, Bhagavan is saying here, for the same reason, he is insisting Arjuna to fight this battle under the principles which is called actions for the sake of duties, as we discussed earlier also. So to teach people that sometimes violence is also necessary. We see when we cannot come to a settlement by arguments, then there is no other option but we have to take the path of violence. So being a person of the administrative class, Arjuna must have to accept this particular action right at this moment. So we see that the people who are self-realized and firmly situated in divine consciousness, they are engaged in various activities in this world, though they are not interested at all in this mortal world, but they very carefully and attentively perform all the duties in this world, we can see. So this is the point here Bhagavan wanted to establish, and the continuation in the next verse, verse number 21. यद्यद् आचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेवेतरो जनाः स यत् प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते. Yat whatever, acharati he does, shreshtaha a respectable leader, tat that, tat and that alone, eva certainly, itaraha common, janaha person, saha he, yat whichever, pramanam example, kurute does perform, Lokaha, all the world, tat, that, anuvartate, follows in the footsteps. Translation. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yes, this is very true. We all know that. But the great personalities act, the general people try to follow their path. So, Shreshtha means the great personalities, personality, one in singular. Pramanam kurute, that is exemplary performance, he does, that is, that great personality does. Tat anuvartate means follows in the footsteps of. So we see that the leaders are always expected to behave in a proper manner. And that is why we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that a teacher must behave in a perfect manner before starting to teach people. And such a teacher is called Acharya, whose Achar is perfect. He is an Acharya. So, who is following all the scriptural injunctions and always doing all the activities in a perfect manner. He is the leader. He can only be the leader. So, Shrestha. And we see in continuation in verse number 22 how Bhagavan is establishing the fact more clearly by setting his own example. His own example. As we know, he is the Supreme Lord, so he has nothing to do with this material world. But still, he is always engaged in all the activities befitting a person belonging to the administrative class from his life in Mathura and Dwaraka. Okay, so text 22. Na me parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta eva cha karmani. Na, not. Me, mine. Partha, O son of Pratha. Asti, there is. Kartavyam, prescribed duty. Trishu, in the three. Lokeshu, planetary systems. Kinchana, any. Na, nothing. Anavaptam, wanted. Avaptavyam, to be gained. Varte, I am engaged. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Karmani, in prescribed duty. Translation. O son of Pratha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Anavaptam. Anavaptam, that means he is not in want of anything, and avaptavyam, that is, he has nothing to gain. Where in these three planetary systems, he has nothing to gain because we know he is the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer of this entire creation. So, still he is saying personally that still I am doing all the prescribed duties very carefully and attentively. Why? Because I know that people are going to follow me. So we see that the Supreme Lord is the controller. He is the greatest of all the Devas. He is the master of all, director of all, worshipable by all, and he has no action. His senses are transcendental, and any one of his organs can perform the actions of all the others. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds like creation, etc., are automatically performed as a natural sequence. In the personality of Godhead, Krishna, everything is in full opulence, and that is why he is Bhagavan, who has 6 opulences, as we discussed earlier also. Virya, Yasha, Shri, Aishwarya, Jnana, Vairagya. All the opulences in full. So, we see his existence is the highest truth. So, he has no duty to perform. It is we who are receiving fruits of work. So, we have some designated duties, but he is above all designations, above all regulations, but still we see he is acting like an ordinary human being and not violating the rules and regulations prescribed in the scriptures. Okay. So this point is elaborated in the next 2 verses also. How he is performing all the duties and why in detail. So verse number 23 and 24 we will chant together and then we will discuss. यदि ह्याहं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रिताः मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः. Yadi, if, he, certainly, aham, I, na, do not, varteyam, thus engage, jatu, ever, karmani, in the performance of prescribed duties, atandritaha, with great care, mama, my, vartma, path, anuvartante, would follow, manushyaha, all men, Partha, O son of Pritha, Sarvashaha, in all respects. Translation. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Text 24. उत्सीदेयुरिमे लोका न कुर्यं कर्म चेदहं शङ्करस्य च कर्तास्यम् उपहन्यामि मः प्रजाः. Utsideyuhu would be put into ruin. Ime, all these. Lokaha, worlds. Na, not. Kuryam, I perform. Karma, prescribed duties. Chet, if. Aham, I. Sankarasya, of unwanted population. Cha, and. Karta, creator. Syam, would be. Upahanyam, would destroy. Imaha, all these. Prajaha, living entities. Translation. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put into ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So Bhagavan says here in these 2 verses, what is the reason of his acting like a normal human being, according to the scriptural injunctions? Because people would follow his path. Mama vartma anuvartante. People will follow my path, would follow my path. So I do karmani atandritaha. I'm always engaged in the performance of prescribed duties with great attention. Atandritaha. Without any kind of negligence and with great care and attention. So we see that everyone in this world has the responsibility of maintaining the balance of this society for the overall progress of our material and spiritual life. And we see the responsibility of a leader is even more than any ordinary person in this regard. And Krishna, though is above all material cause and effect, is teaching us throughout his entire life. We see he is the Supreme Lord, yet teaching us the art of living as a human being in this world. So he re-established the religious principles in the society and removed all the impurities. In the form of various asuras, we see in the entire Vrindavan Leela, he vanquished so many asuras, and which has great significance also, as we know that in the beginning, when he was just a mere child of 6 days, he killed Putana. And Putana, as we know, she represents the meaning, the very meaning of the term is Putana means, Puta means pure and Na means not. So who is not pure, she is Putana. So we see that the mothers, here Putana represents the mothers who are not pure in heart and can kill their babies even in the womb. They are in this category. So to teach us, Bhagavan killed Putana, we can say that way. And we see the redemption of Kaliya also. Kaliya represents the false pride and ego. So by the redemption of Kaliya, he proved that if we really can feel him in our heart, how spontaneously our heart can be purified through his very presence. And in Govardhana Leela, we see his protest against the lifeless religious rituals, the Indra Puja, that in Govardhana Leela we see, and there was a custom of worshipping Indra Deva as and gratitude of rain, of showering rain in time, so that the crops are perfectly cultivated. So we see that when Krishna stopped Indra Puja and started the worshipping Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan, we see it is actually a protest against this lifeless religion, religious rituals, as we say, and the empowered leaders also who can harm the innocent people if their false pride is not satisfied, as the Indra did in Govardhana Leela, we see. As people stopped worshipping him, so how ferocious he became and poured severe shower and thunderstorm, and that also for 7 days continuously. So we see this kind of leaders should be abandoned at once. That is the education that we get from here. And we see puja means to attain purity, and protecting the nature means protecting the purity also. So Govardhana Puja is to protect the purity of the nature. So, and then we see that the killing of Kamsa. Kamsa's administration was aiming at sense gratification only. And not only Kamsa himself, but all his ministers were corrupt, cruel, selfish, and materialistic. So killing Kamsa is to vanquish the corrupt administration in this society. So we see he enthroned his grandfather Ugrasena, and we see that he always worked for people in service attitude. He never wanted to become a leader, but it was a spontaneous process that so happened. So for the protection of the society, he never hesitated to go beyond the so-called principles also. Such principles that can paralyze the society. So we see that he did not hesitate to run away from the battlefield when Jarasandha attacked his kingdom for the 18th time, and before that he defeated Jarasandha for 17 times. But for the 18th time, he went away from the battlefield for a greater cause. For a greater cause that we will come to know. I am not discussing that. It will take more time. And he accepted the title Ranachod. So we see that, and again we see that in the Kurukshetra war, to save the Pandavas from his Narayani Senas and the weapons thrown by them, the Narayani Senas were acting on behalf of the Kaurava army, as we know. So he instructed the Pandavas to turn their faces in opposite direction. And we see apparently these are all against the principles of war. But for the protection of higher religious causes, he acted in this manner. And his divine Leelas can only be understood by his mercy. We know that it is not possible by a normal intelligence to understand all this. But if we had followed his preachings perfectly, then the society would be a better place today. But still we can try. It is not too late. We still can stand up and prepare ourselves for a new journey. And then we see how he saved 16,000 princesses who were kidnapped by Narakasura and captivated by his mystical power. And when the princesses were saved by the Lord, and they said that the society was going to abandon them, for they had become impure in the estimation of the society, and that only a prostitution would be their destination. So what Bhagavan did then? He married all of them to offer them the greatest respect possible. And it was possible for Bhagavan to expand himself to the equal number of the queens he had to accept. Because he is a Yogeshwara, we see the greatest of all mystics. And in this connection, there is a beautiful story when Narada Muni came to visit his kingdom, Dwaraka. And he saw that in different palaces, Sri Krishna is engaged in different activities at the same time. And he actually became overwhelmed, Narada Muni. Then Bhagavan said to Narada Muni that Brahman dharmasya vaktaham karta tad anumodita tad shikshaya lokam imam manchitaha putra makhidaha. So he said that, my dear son, I myself is the instructor, maintainer of religion, and I am who grant it. Vakta aham, karta aham, anumodita aham. So it's me. My dear son, I still act to teach the people the proper behavior. The right behavior that is in coordination with dharma. So please don't get upset seeing me acting like an ordinary householder. So we see that how he worshipped Narada Muni to teach us how to welcome and respect the sadhus. And then his instructions to Arjuna in the form of this scripture, Bhagavad Gita, and his instructions to Uddhava that we find in Śrimad Bhagavatam. And then we see that Shri Krishna insisted Yudhishthira Maharaja to perform this Rajasiya sacrifice. Not once, more than once even, because Rajasiya sacrifice is to winning over the world for the purpose of distributing accumulated wealth by a few unrighteous kings. And we know how Arjuna snatched all the accumulated wealth for the purpose of this sacrifice. And in this way, the financial equilibrium in the society was maintained, and the artificial crisis of resources was eradicated. So then we see that when the hunter threw the arrow to Krishna's feet, thinking the lotus feet as a beautiful bird, and then his Sarathi came crying that, "Oh Lord, you did so much for these people, but in the end of your life, this fellow killed you in this way. What an injustice is this?" But then also Bhagavan just smiled, as if to say that, do you think I have come in this world to get something from here? I tried to re-establish dharma, and I tried to make this world a better place, a beautiful place, and I tried my best, and that's all. So here we see, and Shukadeva Goswami also said in Śrimad Bhagavatam that the all-powerful Lord did not want to preserve his divine form forever. And this is to teach us. He also wanted to give us a message through this, so that we can understand that our body is also temporary. If the Lord himself cannot stay in this world forever, then what about us? So just to give us a message, he did this. Okay. So then we see that he himself destroys Yadu dynasty, because they were becoming corrupt, and he did not spare them for being their own children, who were trying to destroy the glory of dharma. And he vanquished them all without discrimination, that they are his own people or they are not. And then we see that he served Durvasa Muni, as we know about Durvasa Muni and his mischievous acts. So this Durvasa Muni once came to his palace, and there was little negligence in the part of the queen to serve him. So we see that Bhagavan pulled his chariot as horses along with his queen, and accepted his torture silently. Because here also he wanted to teach us this lesson, how to respect and serve a Brahmana guest. Then we see that he acts as a chariot driver of Arjuna. So here we see the spontaneous acceptance of lower position. It is very difficult for us. We see that to come down to a position and act perfectly in that manner also, with smile in our face. We all know how difficult it is. But Bhagavan taught us everything, all the difficult things that is, all the difficult things that are really very important to learn to live a perfect life in this world. And that is why dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, to establish dharma in this world. He came again and again. And we see that his entire life was a series of activities to re-establish this dharma. So we must try to avoid action, must not try to avoid action and sit idle in the name of inaction, that is renunciation of action. So we must not try to avoid. In that case, we are definitely going to fall under the influence of tamoguna. So we must have to learn the responsibility as a human being in this world from all these verses, from 20 to 24. So, and it is a fact that we all, everybody of us, we all have little contribution in maintaining the balance of this society and its function, so that its function can go on without disturbances. And for that reason only, we have to follow the instructions of Sri Bhagavan. But definitely at the same time, we have to be very careful that we must follow him, not imitate, as it is not possible also. Because it will definitely be a foolish act then, because anukaran and anusaran, there is a big difference between this. Anusarana means follow and anukarana means imitate. So as we are not the Supreme Lord, we are not Yogeshwara, so it is not possible to expand ourselves to the equal number of the queens, or it is not possible for us to lift Giriraj Govardhana in one finger and stay in a stable way for 7 days and 7 nights. It is not possible for us to dance over the hoods of Kalia. So as nothing is possible for us, no action that Bhagavan did is possible for us to imitate. So we must not foolishly try to imitate them also. Rather, we must follow his instructions, not his activities. What he instructed us in the form of this Bhagavad Gita, we must try to follow them in its proper essence. Then only we can live a perfect life and help others also to live a perfect life. So with this, we will come to the end of today's session. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम